The year was 1931, and America's most beloved movie star was about to board a train bound for Europe when a voice cut through the Los Angeles station like a blade. "Gary, you son of a—" The petite woman racing toward him wasn't there to say goodbye. Lupe Velez raised her hand, and witnesses later swore they heard a gunshot echo through the terminal as Gary Cooper dove into the train car, escaping what could have been the most shocking headline in Hollywood history. This wasn't fiction from one of Cooper's westerns. This was the real Gary Cooper, a man whose private life made his movie adventures look tame by comparison. Cooper had spent 3 years in one of Hollywood's most destructive relationships, and his escape to Europe wasn't just a vacation, it was survival. The Mexican actress known as the Spitfire had nearly destroyed him physically and emotionally, leaving him so drained that Paramount Studios ordered him to take time off to recover his health. What audiences didn't know was that their all-American hero was running from a woman who had already put him in the hospital once before. The man stepping onto that train was Hollywood royalty, tall, ruggedly handsome, with piercing blue eyes that made women swoon and men want to buy whatever he was selling. Cooper had transformed himself from Frank Cooper, a failed agriculture student from Montana, into the definitive American hero. His breakthrough role in The Virginian established him as the strong, silent type, while films like Wings and The Winning of Barbara Worth made him a household name. But Cooper's greatest performance wasn't on screen. It was the daily act of pretending to be the moral, upstanding character that millions of Americans believed him to be. Behind the carefully crafted image lay a man whose appetites and choices would have destroyed his career if the public ever discovered the truth. Lupe Velez entered Cooper's life like a force of nature in 1929 during filming of The Wolf Song. At just 5 feet tall, she was the perfect opposite of Cooper's 6'3" frame, but what she lacked in height, she made up for in intensity. Velez had earned her Mexican Spitfire nickname through a combination of brilliant acting and genuine volatility that kept everyone around her on edge. Their relationship became Hollywood's most talked-about secret, though it was barely secret at all. Velez would appear on set during Cooper's other films, watching him with suspicious eyes and making scenes whenever she detected any hint of flirtation with his co-stars. During one particularly violent argument, she grabbed a kitchen knife and chased Cooper around their shared house, eventually cutting him deeply enough that he required medical attention. The intensity wasn't just one-sided. Cooper later admitted that Velez's passionate nature both attracted and exhausted him. "You couldn't help but being attracted to Lupe Velez," he wrote years later. "She flashed, stormed, and sparked, and on the set she was apt to throw things if she thought it would do any good." What he didn't mention was how that same passion translated into physical confrontations that left both of them bruised and emotionally drained. Their relationship became a cautionary tale about mixing love with obsession. Velez's jealousy reached dangerous levels when Cooper began filming Morocco with Marlene Dietrich. Hollywood insiders knew that Dietrich had a reputation for seducing her leading men, and Velez was determined to not let that happen. She began showing up on the Morocco set uninvited, creating tension that affected the entire production. Cooper married socialite Veronica, or Rocky Balfe, in December 1933, hoping that a stable, refined wife would help him escape the chaos that had defined his personal life. Rocky represented everything Velez wasn't: calm, sophisticated, from a good family with Hollywood connections through her uncle, MGM's art director. Their wedding was presented to the public as a fairy tale romance between America's favorite cowboy and a beautiful society woman. The marriage provided Cooper with the respectability his career demanded, but it didn't cure his wandering eye. By 1942, he was involved with Ingrid Bergman during filming of Whom the Toll Bill. Bergman, despite her reputation as cinema's saint, was an experienced woman who knew exactly what she wanted from their relationship. The affair lasted through their second film together, Saratoga. Cooper's pattern was becoming clear to those who knew him well. He would fall intensely for his leading ladies during filming, pursue passionate affairs,
then move on when the production ended. Director Howard Hawks later said he could always tell when Cooper was about to start a new affair by his behavior. If I ever saw him with a good-looking girl and he was kind of dragging his feet over the ground and being very shy and looking down, I'd say, uh-oh, the snake's gonna strike again. The most destructive of Cooper's affairs began in 1948 when he met Patricia Neal during the Fountainhead. Neal was 21, Cooper was 47, and seemingly settled in his marriage. Their relationship quickly became serious, with Cooper openly declaring his love when confronted by his wife. Rather than denying the affair, Cooper admitted everything and continued seeing Neal, creating a scandal that threatened both their careers.
The affair reached a crisis point when Neal became pregnant in 1950. Cooper, terrified of the damage an illegitimate child would cause to both their careers, pressured Neal to have an abortion. The procedure was illegal at the time, but Cooper arranged for Neal to see a doctor in downtown Los Angeles. He even accompanied her to the clinic, though Neal later wrote that the experience haunted both of them. "For over 30 years, alone, in the night, I cried," Neal later wrote in her autobiography. "For years and years, I cried over that baby. If I had only one thing to do over in my life, I would have that baby." Cooper's decision to prioritize his career over their child marked the beginning of the end for their relationship, though it continued for another year before Neal finally broke it off. By 1951, Cooper's marriage had deteriorated beyond repair. Rocky, exhausted by years of public humiliation and private betrayal, demanded a legal separation. For 2 years, Cooper lived apart from his family while continuing his affair with Neal and pursuing other relationships with actresses including Grace Kelly and Swedish star Anita Ekberg. The separation nearly destroyed Cooper's carefully maintained public image. Fan magazines began questioning America's favorite hero, and his daughter, Maria, was caught between her parents in increasingly bitter custody arrangements. Cooper's drinking increased dramatically, and he developed severe ulcers from the stress of maintaining his career while his personal life collapsed in full view of Hollywood's gossip mill. Rocky, meanwhile, discovered her own strength during the separation. She became a sought-after hostess in Beverly Hills society, proving she didn't need her famous husband to maintain her social position. When Cooper began begging for reconciliation in 1954, Rocky held all the negotiating power and demanded complete faithfulness as the price of reuniting their family. Cooper's reconciliation with his family came with a deeper realization that his behavior was destroying everything he claimed to value. His drinking had damaged his health, his affairs had nearly cost him his family, and his reputation for integrity was increasingly at odds with his private choices. Friends like Ernest Hemingway and director John Ford, both Catholics, began discussing faith with Cooper as a potential source of the moral structure his life clearly lacked. On April 9, 1959, Cooper formally converted to Catholicism, the same faith practiced by his wife and daughter. He later told friends it was the best thing I ever did, suggesting that religious conviction provided the guidance his life had previously lacked. The conversion seemed to bring him genuine peace in his final years, though it couldn't erase the consequences of his earlier choices. Cooper's last film, The Naked Edge, proved prophetic. He played a man whose wife suspected him of terrible crimes, forcing him to confront the consequences of his past actions. By then, Cooper was seriously ill with prostate cancer, though he kept his condition secret from all but his closest family members. He died on April 13, 1961, just 6 days after his 60th birthday. Gary Cooper's story reveals the fundamental contradiction between public personas and private realities that defined Hollywood's golden age. His screen characters were moral, steady, and trustworthy, but Cooper himself was impulsive, unfaithful, and often cruel to those who loved him. Yet this contradiction didn't diminish his talent or his cultural impact. If anything, it made him more human. His conversion to Catholicism in his final years suggests Cooper understood his failings and sought redemption. Whether he achieved it remains unknowable,
But his struggle between virtue and vice created one of cinema's most enduring figures. Today, Gary Cooper remains both an American icon and a reminder that even our greatest heroes are flawed human beings, capable of inspiring greatness while inflicting terrible pain on those closest to them. His legacy forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The qualities that made Cooper a compelling screen presence, his intensity, his magnetism, his willingness to take risks, were the same qualities that made him dangerous in real life. In Cooper's case, that contradiction created one of Hollywood's most complex and ultimately tragic figures.